and everybody has their way of covering.
Yeah.
Compliment us.
Right? But when I listen to you guys, it's like you guys are true fans of the Raptors.
Yeah.
Like when we're doing well, you guys are up here. When they're not playing well,
yeah, man,
you guys are online crying.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I thought you were supposed to say nice things about it.
I'll be crying, bro. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Luth. I'm joined by co-host Alex Wong. This is a Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. Make sure you find the podcast wherever you do your socials. That's at Hello Welcome Pod. Joining us today, a very, very special guest. You know him. We got a Michigan Wolverine in the building.
Got a real hooper, bro.
We got a real hooper in the building. Although I did see him, he might have gone 1 for 10 before the show here. You know, no, just kidding. I went 2 for 10. You know him from TSN. You know him from television, from radio. You know him from managing CEBL teams. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Jevohn Shepherd. You did not even say his name after that.
Why? You know what? I love the introduction, but now that I'm on the show, that's when I know I officially made it. So,
wow.
Oh, come on, man.
This when I know I made it. So thank you guys for having me.
So play for Team Canada, you weren't made it then?
No.
This is it.
I was just getting there.
Halifax Raymond.
Now that I'm here,
GM of the Ottawa Blackjacks.
Something like that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, what's up, man? What's up? Hey, also big thanks to U of T first off for hosting us here at Gold Ring Center.
Yes, we're live from the Gold Ring Center at U of T. Shouts to Carlo, Ennis, Muddy, Coach Muddy earlier, the U of T men's basketball team. Will, you were able to get into a little shooting contest earlier, which was super fun. And just want to let everyone to know that the U of T men's basketball team season has started. And this Friday, November 1st, is the first game of the Metro Hoops Classic against TMU.
Oh, man.
That's the big rivalry. So make sure you go to varsityblues.ca or check out the U of T men's basketball IG to get tickets. We definitely got to come check out some U of T games.
Oh, no,
those are super fun.
No, we're there, man. We should go in the home and home, man.
Home and home. Let's do it.
I'm going to wear U of T gear for this one, and then I'm going to wear some TMU gear on the other one, man. I'm shameless. Okay.
Well, we've established you wear any gear that you find in your closet, any apparel. All right, guys, 4 games into the season, want to chat about some Raptors early season trends. Jevohn, let's start with Scottie Barnes. I know in training camp coming into the season, there's so much emphasis about him taking on more of a leadership role, becoming the face of the franchise. Want to chat with you, what have you seen from him so far through 4 games, and what do you think are the challenges of him trying to step into this new role?
It's funny, right? Because you mentioned, yes, there's so much emphasis on Scottie being the guy, and Scottie is now paid as the guy. He has the keys, and I had a chance to see him in the summer workout, and I was actually impressed with nothing to do with skill, right? And I can't sit here and tell you that I saw much development in terms of his ball handling, his shooting, his body. Scottie came pretty well put together right from the jump. But what I did notice is he made more of a conscious effort, even in those workouts in the summer, to be vocal and you could just see he was making that effort there to talk to guys, communicate to his team in open runs, and encourage guys. Even there was an open run where I remember his team was on the side, or no, actually he had subbed out that game, and he was on the sideline calling out plays for his team in an open run. And that said to me, okay, this is, 1, he's been challenged. 2, he's also challenging himself to be more of a vocal leader. One thing we do know about Scottie, he has presence, right? And that's something that you can't teach. So I look at him and I say, he's going to be up and down this season. Because for me, this is going to be another rookie year for Scottie, in a sense of now you have the keys, right? Now you're the number 1 guy. Now you're on every scouting report. The teams are focused on you. When you look at Scottie's entire career, you look at him at Montverde in high school. He wasn't a number 1 option, right? It was Cade Cunningham that was on that team, and a couple of other really good players, where Scottie's role was to roam around and do his work that way. Really good at that, right? You go to college now. He's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. He's not a number 3. He's in that same role because of his ability, his size. He can put it on the floor. He can, post up, be a mismatch problem. So he's in that role there as well. His first 3 years with the Raptors, he was in that exact same role. Rookie of the year, he's in that same exact role. Now you fast forward to giving him the keys. I think people underestimate this is newness for Scottie. It is, you're the lead guy. You are not only responsible for your production, but you're responsible for the other 13 guys on the team, right? You're responsible for the other 4 guys on the court. So this is a situation that he's never been in before. So as well as he's played early, I expect some highs, I expect some lows. And you know what? All the basketball critics and pundits, I think at the end of the year, they're going to say, oh, whoa, Scottie, he may not be a number one. He may not be. But they're not taking into account the entire picture. This is the first time he's played this role right now. So I've been impressed with it because he's challenged himself to be a more vocal leader, to be a guy that's going to have presence on the floor. And that for me, and I know I come from a player perspective, and I look and value those things right there. And that makes a huge difference. So I expect this is going to be a turbulent year, but he needs this because he's never been here before.
So I got 2 questions on this front. Number one, can somebody go from being in that role to then developing into a number one type? You know what I mean? Because I think that's sort of the hope and expectation of fans. It's like best case scenario, Scottie becomes this like 1A superstar. He does all the scoring. He does all the leadership. He does all the setup. He does all the defense. Honestly, he already hits a lot of those points already. It's mostly the scoring that's got to come in. Can a player do that? Can you point to like previous examples of that happening in the league?
So I think, can a player do that? Yes, if it's innate. If it's not, then no, right? And I think that's what we're exploring with right now is finding out, do you have that in you? What we do know is he has a presence that is, other guys will pick up on and follow. But there's also the maturity aspect that we have to take into account as well. And that's what we want to see. That's what we're waiting to see with Scottie is he going to take on this role? Can he take on this role from a maturity standpoint? Because if Scottie becomes a better scorer, if Scottie becomes a better shooter, that doesn't necessarily mean you become a better team, right? Because
interesting.
Of the brand of basketball that he plays, he's actually somebody that is at his best when he makes the other guys around him better. And I think a lot of what we've seen with him, he himself is, he's emotional. He's an emotional player. He can be extremely high. When things aren't going well, he can be sometimes extremely low. And that affects the other guys on the team. So the maturity that I'm talking about is being able to, just encompass and be in control of the emotional range of the team. And that for me is, where that's going to take precedence for him. And can he be that number one guy? But we have to go through it. You don't figure that out unless you go through it and explore it. And I think that's what the front office is doing. And you have to commend them for that.
Dude, this is where you got to get a player's perspective on this, because there's like an emotional side to the game that unless you're like literally in it, you're running up and down, you're exhausted, you blew a big lead, kind of like what they happened against Denver. Sort of that perspective of sort of being in the trenches and understanding those moments, that's really huge. So thank you for bringing that. My other question to you is, because I asked someone else on the show earlier too, is like, what is an ideal good Scottie Barnes game versus like what's a good game for Scottie? How do we define that? Because I feel like for some players, like a good, like for DeMar, for example, a good game would have been like he scored like 25 to 30 points. He shot over 50%. You know what I mean? Like, because his role was a scorer. For Kyle, you wouldn't say that. Kyle would have been like, honestly, if the Raptors won, if he took like 2 charges, got like 20-ish points, knocked down like 4 threes, made like a big 10-0 swing at some point in the game because he's known to do that. What's like the marker of like a good Scottie Barnes game for you?
So the marker for a good Scottie Barnes game doesn't show up in the box score. It's how engaged is he, right? And I think we can all attest to this. When Scottie Barnes is engaged, he doesn't have to score 20, but he can impact a game on the defensive side of the floor, right? You look at his arms, you look at his wingspan, you look how much real estate he covers on the court. He can command so much attention on the defensive side. He has a contagious, personality. When he communicates, everybody listens, right? Then on the offensive side, and we've seen a bit of it against Denver yesterday as well, when he's able to recognize matchups on the floor, he can always create a matchup problem, right? And be the bigger offensive player or have a bigger defender on him, and there's going to be a mismatch on the floor every time. Now, when he creates mismatches for himself, he's also created a mismatch for somebody else on the floor, right? So the fact that he can, when he gets to the point where he can recognize that on every possession, offensively and defensively, I think that's when you can really say, okay, this is a good Scottie Barnes, right? This version of Scottie Barnes is what we want to see. And that is when Scottie's really engaged, right? And you think about how many times have we seen him get a rebound and then push it to the length of the floor in 2 dribbles, and you see the other 4 players, they're off to the races like a track meet.
Yep.
That's the contagious presence that I'm talking about. Now, when he catches off the glass and maybe gets fouled and he's sulking or, shrugging his shoulders and doesn't have that force to him, you also see that reflect in the other 4 players. And none of that is in the box score. None of that is, how he's shooting from the 3-point line. So I think for him, it's that measure is the maturity and understanding. When I'm engaged, I'm actually in control of everybody else on the floor. And that makes everybody else better. Scottie engaged can give RJ 20. That can give Quickly 20. That can give Gradey Dick 20. Then you don't need 20 from Scottie. You're not even concerned about his shooting or his 3-point percentage.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because it's like even watching that Denver game, like him doing his like no-look passes, just seeing him out there like just having fun. I feel like sometimes it's really easy to see like he was so excited for RJ, like coming back, getting some big baskets and stuff. And I even like the way he responded to when he got fouled by Westbrook and Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
Like I think some of the times when fans are watching Scottie, they just want to see more of that emotion sometimes, like more of that fight, more of that reaction. And I think too, like it's tough for him, like you mentioned, being up and down this season. Like the team's got to put good players around him too, right?
Yes.
Like I know the roster right now is kind of a work in progress. And I wonder too, for a young player, like going to year 4, even though it's a different role now for him this season, it's like how much patience does a young guy have in terms of like if the team continues to lose, like it's hard to like build up that energy and be able to bring that every night when the team is struggling over the long term. Like that's my one concern.
And, that's a great point. And you would hope for young guys like that they have a really good supporting cast around them outside of their teammates, outside of their coaches and so forth, because that's an opportunity for somebody to sit down with a young player. We're talking about Scottie in this instance, but sit down with a young player and say, listen, you have the keys, right? So that means you also have the key to go open Bobby's door and go open Masai's door and say, hey, this is what I see. This is what I need, what I think is going to make us better, right? And that takes a level of, intellect, a level of basketball IQ and understanding. As young as you are, I'm also part of this front office, right, in building this thing up. And my patience, I'm a part of having my own patience, right? So now I can go to the coaching staff and say, okay, guys, I need this, right? And it's a two-way street, right? You tell them what you need, they tell you what they see, what they want out of you, and now we're working in tandem, right? So there's got to be some synergy there. So it's not just I'm sitting back and, hey, put the pieces around me, figure it out there's open dialogue now. Like you have enough sweat equity in the organization to say, this is how we're going to work together. I want to work with you guys work with me. And it's not just sitting back and waiting and, hey, I need 4 shooters or I need a 1B to make this work. Maybe you don't, right? Maybe I just need 4 guys that are going to go out and play hard, compete, dive on loose balls, or I need a veteran that's going to hold me accountable, right? So that's a part of the learning process and why I said this is another rookie season for Scottie, because he's never been in this role before. He's never been a number 1. He's never been the 1A.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking to some of the other supporting guys, I think fans right now are getting a big chance to see what Gradey Dick's about, what Ochai Agbaji's about. Honestly, I feel like they've both really impressed based on sort of what they did last season. Gradey was a rookie. He's come in. He just had a career high with 25. I think that's going to get pushed even higher this season. He's clearly showcased more than just catching and shooting from the corners, which was largely what he did last year. He's at the top of the floor. The actions are getting run for him now. And then Ochai, it feels like you're starting to see just how much of an athlete he is, how strong he is. He's starting to build confidence, too. He's always such a nice guy. I mean, you've been around Ochai. He's a nice guy, right? Really nice guy. But I want to see a little bit more nasty. Like, he's like probably the most cut guy on the team. Go to the rim, dunk on a couple guys, and you're seeing that now. He's taking it strong, and that confidence is led over to, I mean, if he makes the threes, that's nice. Ideally, you're good at the corner threes, maybe some from the top, but you know what? There's like a skill there, and there's like a ability to contribute. What are you seeing from those 2 Kansas guys right now?
Well, one, I seen that cock back dunk from Ochai yesterday. I was like, okay, that is That's the force you're talking about, that nasty you're talking about, that you have in you. With Gradey, I've been impressed with him, right? Last year's rookie year, he took a lot of criticism, and rightfully so, right? I think the average fan doesn't understand the in the locker room, the nuances, the adjustment that a guy like that is going through. And if you look at Gradey's profile, right, his projection of who he would be or the type of player that he would be in the NBA, that profile typically is a 3-year college guy, 3-4 year college guy, right? You don't necessarily get the shooters that have decent size, are supposed to have a high clip, coming out one and done.
Good point.
Right? So he's already, despite the struggles that he had last year, he's already ahead of the curve, right? Because he's in the league. Right now he has the NBA development. He has NBA coaches working with him, whereas guys with similar profile and similar games would have been 2, 3, 4 year guys in college. And you guys can look that up and see it as well. But
right.
If you also look at who he was last year at this time, Gradey would get into the paint, and it's almost like he has a hot potato. I don't know what to do with it. Should I shoot it? Should I pass it? He's getting knocked over because he's not as strong. He also just didn't understand how to cut and when to cut in the NBA. And you compare where he is now to last year, I think there's huge strides. He's also not just a shooter, right? Shoots a great clip above the break. And it sounds cliche, and I know everybody's saying he cuts well, but he reads the game well, right? And he's always been a guy that could make plays, but he just wasn't strong enough to get that bounce pass there. Just didn't understand. At college, at his size, he was one of the biggest players on the floor. In high school, he's one of the biggest players on the floor. Now you get to the league, and these guys are your size and about 50 pounds heavier and big-time athletes. So that takes some adjustment. Even now on his shots, his clip isn't as fast as it's going to be, right? So he's actually a better cutter to me than he is, a three-point threat at this point right now. And if the three-point shot is his actual strength, his superpower, that tells me you've done a good job drafting him, because in a draft, I've talked to a number of front office GMs and executives before, and the whole draft, you're not going to knock out the park and get a superstar in every draft. But if you can draft a rotational player, you've had a good draft, right? There's a handful of superstars in the league. And I think he's well on his way to being a really good rotational guy, and he hasn't figured anything out yet. And he's still a year and a half away from where his profile of player would be. Now, Agbaji, these first 4 games, I've been impressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll be the first to tell you I was a bit apprehensive last year because it wasn't his ability. It was, you could always just see the wheels turning. And the confidence is the toughest thing to catch up, right? You can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't believe it, you can't apply it. These last 4 games, just seeing him have, that dunk, seeing him play in transition, seeing him understand that, okay, my role is defend, get out, and run. And I can have 8 to 10 points a game.
Yep.
Seeing him, realize that tells me, okay, there's something there, and he's starting to scratch that surface. Is he ever going to be a 15, 20-point guy? I don't see that. But I don't have a crystal ball, right? I don't want to put a ceiling on anybody. But he's also shooting the basketball well now. And did his form change? There's been minor tweaks.
Yeah.
But we say that every year. Guys, tweak this, tweak that. No, he just believes I can make the shot, right? He's had enough reps. He hit a couple early this season, so now his confidence is rolling, right? So much of this game is confidence. And I think if he can stay on this path, yeah, he's a good piece. He's a good piece, and he allows the front office, he allows the organization to continue to evaluate what you need, what's going to stay, what's going to be here. Now, so much of this is we're 4 games in. There's a lot of season left.
Yep.
So many changes. Now, when you get to a point where there's a lot more adversity, how are these same guys going to react? And that's going to tell you more about their ceiling than anything.
But it's good, though. I mean, early signs are there. You know what I mean? Like, developing season, what you want to see, number one, is just players getting better. Gradey's getting better. I feel like, honestly, the more he works on his bodies, he's got to run around a lot. Like you mentioned, he's cutting, he's curling, he's getting open for threes, he's sprinting out. That's all, just energy and, fitness. So he's got to, continue to work on that front. Obviously, he's done something like that already this offseason. And then with Ochai, like, man, the confidence point is so key because, again, like, you just can't see that. You know what I mean? That's another thing you can't see in the box score. But you're right. Like, he was kind of overthinking things or just, like, didn't necessarily know where to be. And I think the more that he's getting success, the more he can build off of that success. Like, I don't know if he's going to be a starter for this team. Probably not. They're probably going to keep rolling with Gradey in the starting five when everyone's healthy. If everyone ever gets healthy, because, damn, we getting hit hard right now. But I like it. Like, all of a sudden, there's two more guys that I know can contribute for me on the wing. And that's what the league is about right now, all wings, right?
Yeah, and I always compare back to, like, the last couple of seasons, too. Like, the way that we're approaching this season. Like, Jevohn, like you mentioned, it's like, oh, this is another rookie season for Scottie, and us talking about Gradey and Ochai. And I want to talk about some of these rookies, too. Like, you know, Jamal Shedd's been really impressive. Jonathan Mobo, too, like, I think has been a surprise early on. Like, this season is really about looking at this team through the lens of that, like, individual development, right? Like, it's not even thinking about, like, I don't even know if you guys are thinking about, like, what the identity of this team is going to be, like, big picture stuff. For me, it's more looking at, like, how these individual guys are developing and then worrying about that stuff later. Like, and I know sometimes fans don't want to hear that because, like, you even talk about, like, Gradey and Ochai, like, these guys are going to take a couple of years to really develop in what they're going to be. But that's really the path that the Raptors are on now. And I feel like this season, especially with all these players, is that. So, like, for me, through 4 games, one of the most encouraging things, too, is, like, looking at some of these rookies. Like, these rookies have been, like, very impressive. And, again, it's early. Like you mentioned, the adversity is going to come. But you can see the makings of rotation players in guys like Shed and Mobo already.
Yeah, I think honestly, this is going to be a learning experience for everybody, right? Fan base included. Because, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I might have still been playing overseas at that time, but
casual flex,
just like
overseas legend,
little light flex. Where were you at, man? Paris, bro.
Don't even worry about it.
Michigan sweater on.
But
this man was taking pictures of the Eiffel Tower.
But I don't know if the Raptors have ever been in a place where they've flat out said we are rebuilding.
Right?
It's
been a long time, is the thing. Like,
we've been spoiled, man.
But we've
been spoiled.
Have we rebuilt before, or did we just refurbish? We've never been at this where we've been ground zero in building right back up. So even for the fan base, they don't know what to expect, right? You know, it's going to be a naive fan base during this experience as well, from my perspective, because we've never been here before, and you know, we've been spoiled the last decade, winning, and okay, now we have a superstar that we're building around. He's supposed to win us games right now. No, that's not what a rebuild is.
Right.
And with rebuilds, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out in 2 years. There's no guarantee that it's going to work out in 3 years or 4. There's no timeline to them, right? It's all trial and error. But I think, you know, you guys also mentioned some of the other young guys in Mobo and Shed. Those guys have been a pleasant surprise as well.
Yep.
Right. Shed we talk about his defense a lot.
Yeah.
But how about the joy that he plays defense with?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is also contagious. He gets out on the floor, and he's like a shadow on his opponent, and that's infectious as well. That's contagious. I think Mobo, what's been impressive about him is he finds himself in pockets, and he's always aware. He's always ready. He set screens. He just always seems to be under the basket, in the dunker spot, around the rim, and the ball finds his hands. And he's catching it in tight spaces, tough quarters.
Yep.
When I look at him play right now, I think, and it's going to sound crazy, but I think the vision for Precious Achiuwa is what Mobo is going to become. Right?
Okay.
That guy that is, you know, he's probably undersized to play the 5. Maybe not as skilled to play the 4, but can also move up and play a little 3, depending on what you need. Just a super athlete that can be, you know, the ultimate utility guy from those 3 positions, right? And I'm seeing he has a bit more feel, I would say.
Definitely more feel than Precious.
He
Precious
has more
was kind of like a bull in a china shop
He
situation.
has more feel, probably a little bigger, not as, you know, he doesn't have as much weight on him yet.
Yeah.
But I do think he can reach that ceiling, right? Whatever that ceiling looks like. But I think in terms of a mold and a comparable, he's the higher Precious, right? And I think that's a really good start, because that's a guy.
That is a good start. Precious is a good player, man.
He's a good player. I think Precious probably just didn't find his way, confidence issues, or he just didn't really get off to a good enough start where he had that confidence to get that runway. But, you know, for those guys, There's going to be a lot of learning. And I think that's the joy. That's what we also have to be patient with and enjoy ourselves is like we're getting to see this thing ground up again, like laying the footing, the foundation, seeing Shed, as a small guard, even Davion Mitchell, like he's been in the league a couple years, but you can still see there's some development there in terms of, we watched him last night and makes a number of passes, but because he's a smaller guard and they're logging heavier minutes now, they're making tougher passes or, a couple of their passes are getting deflected. Just seeing those guys improve on that means those passes are now delivered. That means you get an extra shot. That's one less turnover. So, for me, there's just the little things paint the big picture, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah. You know what? The Precious and Mobo thing, I've seen the comparison too, but like I feel like the similarity for me is when they get into the paint, they both kind of don't fully have a plan. I feel like that's the number one thing with Jonathan right now. He's adjusting to like how much size is out there.
You know what? I mean? At least Jonathan waits for the ball to get to him.
Yes. Yeah.
Precious is going to – he might catch it at half and just take off.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not getting this ball back if I pass. No, but Mobile, exactly, like your point. Like he when he gets in those tight pockets, he has a good pass in him. He knows sort of when to make the next read. He's got the good hands. And then I think defensively, he's just disruptive, man. Like I don't even feel like he's like always in like even a stance, but somehow his hands are in the right spots. When he blitzes the ball, like he's getting a lot of deflections and steals. That's all really good. And I think the good thing is the Raptors have a track record of developing this style of player. They kind of know what they're working with here. And like, yeah, I mean, this is what the season's about. I mean, obviously, like when I see a Denver game, I'm like, oh man, they're up 10, 2 minutes left, and then they blew it in OT, like whatever, like Darko should have used the timeout, blah, blah, blah. We talked about this already. But I think in the bigger picture, like it's actually really positive. I really like what I'm seeing from the first week.
You remember when a couple of days ago, last Saturday, when Mobo was matched up on Ant Edwards, and he shadowed him on every counter. He was there. He was sitting on him. You know what that reminded me of? A couple of years ago, before Lou Dort was, Glue Dort, I believe he was matched up on, was it James Harden
was it Harden in the playoffs?
It was Harden in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Bubble.
Yeah, and then after that, everybody knew who Lou Dort was.
Right.
They were like, okay.
It helped that he scored 32, by the way. Don't forget that.
Right.
He also had a 30 ball.
No. There was that part.
Yeah.
But when I was watching Mobo on that possession there, I was like, and he didn't look out of place.
Yeah.
He looked like, I have this ability in me, right? So for me, it was like, okay, this is something that he can tap into. That possession right there is going to haunt him forever because every time he has a misassignment on defense, that clip is going to come up. You have this ability.
Yeah.
The coaching staff to say, you have this in you. Nobody should be blown by you.
Right.
Nobody should be blown by you. It's a gift and a curse.
No, it's good, man. I mean, I think the Raptors want to play more defense this year, which is really good. And we're getting more defensive-minded players. So by now, you've already heard the news that Coors Light, as part of the Raptors' 30th anniversary, has these very specially branded cans. They look beautiful. Look at these things, man. Look at these.
They're
beautiful,
covering
beautiful cans.
each era from the first 30 years of the Raptors, and you can get them now at select LCBO stores.
Okay.
Participating bars and restaurants across the GTA and also at Scotiabank Arena. But one more thing, Will, make sure to check out ERAineveryCan.com, ERAineveryCan.com to check out these limited edition cans. And fans can go on the website and enter for a chance to win exclusive Coors Light Raptors prizes. I heard there's some really cool merch collabs and other things happening as well.
So. No, I'm actually, you know what? You actually did tell me what those collabs are going to be. And I got to say, like, I'm really, really excited. I know Coors Light is a partner that we've worked with in the past as well, but this is just beautiful. Like, honestly, I don't even know if I want to drink these cans, man. You got, like, the OG, you got, like, the championship season, and then you got, like, whatever's in between, I guess, the Chris Bosh can. I'll probably drink the Chris Bosh can if it was
I mean, one to rock, one to stock, and also for Raptors fans, like, make sure you keep an eye out. Follow Coors Light on social because they're going to pop up around the city as well.
Oh, word?
I'm hearing they might be at Rogers Center. They might be outside Scotiabank Arena. They might be at Nathan Phillips Square for more prize giveaways. So make sure you check that out. Remember, you must be 19 plus and celebrate responsibly.
I'm going to be there. I can't wait to celebrate. Now, being around the building and stuff like that, every time I see RJ and you in the same place, it's love. Like, are you like RJ's cousin or something? Like, what's happening, man?
Canadian legends.
He always showing you so much love, man. Tell me about the backstory between you. Like, what's the first time you met RJ?
So RJ, I played with his dad on the national team, but then RJ would always be in the gym. Like he's always been in the gym since he was like knee high. And then as we got older, Nathaniel Mitchell, who is
he's in China now.
He's in China now.
Yeah.
Former Raptors assistant coach. He also used to train RJ and a number of all the Canadian guys, Shea, so forth. So we've always, when I was at the tail end of my career, I would actually work out with a lot of these guys, which was, where we start to build our own rapport. You weren't just like Rowan's son. It was like, this is RJ. Like I'm nice. And he would always poke fun at me like, Shep, I'll beat you. I can beat you. And this is when he was like 13. I'm like, RJ, you crazy? I will kill you. No, he's like, no, I will kill you. And I remember it was actually in this very gym.
Oh yeah.
He was in high school at that time, and I want to say it was the OVO tournament here, and Stanley Johnson was on.
Oh, the 86.
That's when the Stanimals dropped 86 here. Yeah.
That was, but RJ, no.
RJ had just come back from the tournament that they won. I remember.
Just come back from the tournament, but he gave Stan, I want to say 40.
Oh,
he gave Stan 40 here.
Damn, Stanley's a good defender too.
Yeah. It wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough for RJ.
Damn. Okay.
And I was like, whoa, like RJ's the real deal. But no, we've had, a relationship ever since he's been little. I remember, it's funny, when I was going to play in Chalon, I must have posted it on something, and we started to talk about that because his dad played in Chalon, which is in France, and he was actually telling me about the city.
Yo, that's crazy.
In France, and I'm asking him questions about, like, what's the city like?
Yeah.
So there's a long history there, and that's that's my little brother.
Yeah, it's kind of cool too.
Little big brother. When I look at him now, I'm like, I don't want no problems. You got it.
Yo,
you got it.
Yeah, he bulked up for sure.
No, it's kind of cool too, because like I think a lot of times talk about NBA players like wanting to come home, like play at home, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way that like they might imagine. Yeah. Like I remember talking to Damon Stoudemire too when he went from Toronto to Portland. He was like, it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, but it seems like RJ is super. Obviously super comfortable on the court here. We've seen a jump in his game, and it just seems like he's really embracing this. Like, do you get that sense from him? Yeah,
for sure. And, it's always tough coming home for players because the things you don't think about are, with every game, there's ticket requests. There's, now you're home and your friends and family always want you to show up somewhere. But the difference with a guy like RJ is he's been a gym rat since he's been a kid. Right, so he's been grounded and rooted from the get-go. So you're not really going to distract RJ from being in the gym. And that was one of the things where when he had come over from New York, he was actually excited about because, Tibbs is really, really, really tight on his players, like strict rules and so forth. And for RJ to come here, like now I have autonomy to go in the gym anytime that I want, right, and work out anytime that I want in our facility and so forth. And even speaking with Kelly, Kelly's another guy I played with. He was Kelly's first year with the national team. He was actually my rookie, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we spent a number. I'm gonna give
you made him sing happy birthday or something? Like a little backpack, little
Kelly,
something?
Kelly's funny. I'll give you a quick story with Kelly. We used to travel, obviously. And Kelly would never, we'd get per diem. Kelly would never spend any of his per diem. Before we left the hotel, we'd always have a meal.
Yeah.
Kelly would wrap peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like 10 of them.
That's crazy.
Instead of spending his per diem and say, no, I'm saving this for the school year. I'm like, Kelly boy swag, you are gonna be okay. Like you're fine. We're gonna get enough. We're getting per diem for the entire trip.
Yeah.
But no, Kelly would wrap his sandwiches, his peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and mind you, these are 10, 11-hour trips. It's not like these guys are flying on private jets today. We're in the airport in London, sleeping on the floors, and he's not buying McDonald's, he's not buying anything, and we even used to rag on him because for 4 years straight he had these red Chucks that he
4 years
every
like
year,
my PGs.
Please,
these are PG3s. He was on the OKC Thunder when I bought these.
Please,
Kelly's cool. He's
how much was a per diem though? I gotta ask because that'll let me assess the situation here.
What was? It depends on where we're going.
Yeah, of course, always.
Our per diem was about, I want to say on travel days, depending on the travel day, maybe like €130.
Oh, yeah.
130 euro.
That's worth saving for.
So that adds up, right?
130 euro.
At that point, you're in college.
Yeah, man.
Your first year pro, you don't have much money. That's about
hey, adds up.
€400 or €500 for
Yeah, but how much
just
are
those days?
How much are a new pair of Chucks though? I know that's not 130.
Chill, man.
One day per diem would have covered
Kelly
that. No
saves
problem.
like 5 per diems. That's like a PS5 or something, man.
But
You're
you know what?
relaxed.
Those are
Just
good
saying, man.
principles to have because
Yeah, sure.
him as a pro, you hear about a lot of pros blowing through money.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
they're paid handsomely.
Yeah.
Kelly's not going to be one of those guys.
No.
He's not going to be one
His
of those
only vice is he has 80 snapbacks. And by 80, I mean 800.
guys. Snapback king.
Bro.
Snapback in the summers with his workouts. Here, he still has the good flow.
Yeah.
But even when he came here, right, I remember his first day, and I was going through the tunnel. He was coming out of the locker room, and it was like, he was just like, Shep, gave me this big hug. And you could tell he wasn't happy to see me. He was happy to be home. It was like, wow. And then I'm seeing a familiar face right away.
Right.
And, he wanted to be here. He wanted to be here. And I think, it's great for those guys. It's always a dream to play in the NBA for, young guys that play the game. But the ultimate dream is playing home. Like, if you're from New York, you want to play for the Knicks. If you're from Toronto, you want to play for the Raptors.
Right.
You dream about playing for the Raptors before you even dream about being an all-star.
Right. Damn, bro. That's actually, I think having those guys to sort of, show that appreciation to the organization. I'm not saying anyone's ungrateful to be a Raptor or being in the NBA. Of course, there's but it's you recognize how special it is. This whole season is 30th anniversary. They're bringing back all sorts of players. Man, they brought back TJ Ford. I was so hyped. I was like, I love TJ
Get over
Ford.
that. You love that.
I just haven't
moment.
seen TJ. I haven't even thought about TJ Ford and his 20, this man had the longest shorts of all time.
Flew my man in to hype up the crowd to start
How
the
did he even
fourth
cross
quarter.
between his legs if his shorts were down there? That's crazy.
What's crazy is that
There's a real thing about playing for this organization. I want you to love it, man. And those two love it for sure.
It's unreal, right? I'm a grown ass man, and this to me is nostalgic when and sometimes I have to check myself. No, these are my colleagues now, right? Alvin Williams, and sometimes we'll go out for dinner, and we'll just kick it. Then the other day, Vince is here, and I'm rubbing shoulders with Vince Carter, and I'm almost like, hold on here, I gotta pinch myself. Because I remember growing up watching these guys, Damon Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse. I still remember the Raptors beating Chicago. That was that '96 team, and Mighty Mouse is the guy. And I'm growing up wanting to be like Mighty Mouse. I'm growing up on the courts in the rec centers trying to do Vince Carter's acrobatic finishes. Meanwhile, I can't dunk. But I'm doing the up and unders.
Bro, you could dunk, man. What are you talking about, bro?
When I got of age.
Oh, okay. This might have been when you were 5. The last time you couldn't dunk.
It's taking a toll now. Don't ask me to get up there. These knees, this back. But being amongst those guys now, and you realize, wow, 30 years have gone by like this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And there's such a rich culture here now because of them. Yes, we have the championship year, and that's always going to be etched in our memory. But when you start seeing some of these guys come back, you're like, wow, this is really what kickstarted basketball in our country.
No, man. I think even for us, we're I always say I'm so lucky because I started a media career at the exact time the Raptors got good, right? If the Raptors weren't 48 wins from 2013-14 and continuing to grow eventually into a championship, it's I don't know if I could have done this, man. You know what I mean? If I was just a Piston blogger this whole time, that wouldn't have worked out. You know what I mean? So I think
might have worked out because you'd be the only one left.
Maybe.
You know what I appreciate though?
What's up?
Have both you guys have a very unique approach.
Yeah.
And everybody has their way of covering.
Yeah.
Compliment us.
Right?
Oh, yeah?
Everyone has their way of covering the team. You have
Let's go.
your advanced analytics that are hard numbers, right? And everybody has their niche audience. But when I listen to you guys, it's like you guys are true fans of the Raptors.
Yeah.
When we're doing well, you guys are up here. When they're not playing well,
man,
you guys are online crying.
Yeah,
and I love it.
I
thought you were supposed to say nice things about it.
I'll be crying, bro. I'm crying. I'm a crier.
And you're low.
Yeah.
But that is the whole.
That's how it is.
That's the whole experience that's sports, right?
Yeah.
You're high, and it plays on. Everybody wants a break from work their every day, and you get that through sport.
Yeah.
So I'm always extremely appreciative because you also give me a different perspective, a different lens, right? I look at. I'm typically looking at it from player or, what could be happening in the locker room.
Yeah.
And you're from I'm friggin' high, love these guys, I love this team to the sky's falling.
Bro, how did Darko not call that timeout, man? I thought they were going to draw up 5 screens for Gradey Dick to hit an open 3. That would have been sick.
No, I think it's a whole separate conversation, but it's part of being in media now. Like, we don't want to lose that part of like having been a fan. You know what I mean? It's like it's like you got to draw the line a little bit. Obviously, like you mentioned, when you're around like a Vince Carter, Alvin Williams, like the spaces that we're in, you don't want to be that guy, right? But it's also like we don't want to lose that because like we came at it as fans, and we shouldn't lose that part of it, right?
It's authentic, man, and I absolutely love it. I sit there and I'm like, that is that. I'm feeling like that too.
Yeah.
But I sometimes I have to separate the two.
No, I get it. We're going to get kicked out of the gym soon. So, we've talked about Scottie. We've talked about Gradey, Ochai, RJ, Kelly. There's only one more guy we need to ask you about, and that's Wesley Chen.
Oh, word?
Your TSN colleague,
Wes.
our former coworker at Yahoo, Wesley Chen. How would you describe him? A gambling addict or a gambling expert?
DF Wes?
So
is he a gambling addict is all I want to know.
Wes,
first off,
is a gambling degenerate. He's
Okay.
a gambling
Confirmed.
degenerate.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's in his terms. We'll be working together, and Wes will, the game is on the monitor, and Wes is punching numbers in spreadsheets, and then he'll tap me, Shep, what do you think about this from a basketball perspective?
From a basketball perspective.
Like, yo, Shep, who's going to get the first basket of the
Thunder
game?
minus 7.5. What you think, Shep?
And then there's a follow-up. Why? Yeah. You know what? And he's such a nice guy. I appreciate that because your perspective matters. And, I use these things because I want to take into account because the numbers are saying this, but I'm going to go this way.
Yo, he don't even listen. Yo.
Contrarian.
You Daryl Morey?
Fourth quarter, he'll be like, I just lost.
I just crashed out.
Or it'll be, I just had a good day. I had a great day. I had a great day.
Like, thanks, Shep, for helping me take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over 30.5 points.
Yo, this is the thing. How people feel when they're betting is how I feel just watching a regular Raptor game. Nothing on the line, bro. How I feel playing pickup basketball is the same way. So, shouts to DF West, man. He's actually, I'm really proud of him. Like, he's made it a long way in his career from being this, like, permanent surprise Pikachu face to like now he's on TSN. You know what I mean? Him and you together. What was that joke he wanted you to make?
Well, Wes said you guys are the Rush Hour.
Rush
Hour crew of TSN.
That's Lee right there. that ain't
That's
Wes.
my brother. That's my Rush Hour
Lee.
brother.
Yeah. Also, he looks so short standing next to you.
Do you know? Can
you dunk over him like Vince did Fred
Listen,
Weiss one
Jerome,
time?
please drop a photo so people have a reference at least, man.
I thought it was just me, but every time I'm outside, like I'll be out in the mall or something, walking around, people will stop me and be like, "Are you the tall guy with the short guy?"
Yo, with the short guy?
And then
Wes is the short king.
One day, Wes said to me, "Do you know how many people come up to me and say, 'Are you the short guy with the tall guy?'" And
Yo,
like, that's who we are now.
That's
who we are
amazing.
now.
Well, listen, Jevohn, really appreciate you coming on the
thank
show.
you, man.
We're getting booted out of this esteemed gym, Gold Ring Center at U of T.
Yeah, bro. What, RJ need another practice?
More
or
things
what,
are
man?
happening here. Really appreciate U of T for helping us, and appreciate you, Jevohn.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Let's
Bro.
get you back on. We need to hear more stories.
Yo,
man.
I
There's
want to
more
ask
thing.
you crazy stories that you had playing in Europe because people always say
Next time.
it's always crazy
That's
when you
for-
play overseas.
That's for episode 2. That's when I'm forcing them to bring me back on here. You heard it here
done.
first.
Done deal. So thanks to Jevohn. We're going to take a quick break and come right back. We want to take this break in the podcast to let you know that we are partnering with Tangerine for this season. For people who aren't familiar, Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors and its fans, and Tangerine is a foundational partner of NBA Canada and WNBA Canada. Tangerine is focused on growing the game of basketball in the country from the grassroots level all the way up to the pros, and where you will find a court, you will likely find Tangerine. And that's the mission that really resonated with us because we also share the same goal of growing the game of basketball here in Canada. What you need to know about Tangerine is that they are about forward banking. That means no unfair fees, no overly complicated products, no expensive brick and mortar branches. And if you want to learn more about Tangerine, go to tangerine.ca.
All right, we are back. Will, that was a great conversation with Jevohn, and the Raptors are in Charlotte tonight to take on the vaunted Hornets. I'm liking the Raptors' money line, man. I really like the effort that they put up against Denver. I know that Scottie's status is probably going to be up in the air, but I'm liking the Raptors to go on the road and get their first road win. So I'm gonna take the Raptors' money line.
My number one thing is please wait until the very last second to see if Scottie's available for this game or not. Obviously, he did take the bow from Nikola Jokic. No foul call somehow, which would have been very upsetting for anyone watching that live. But I do agree with you. I think the Raptors are playing really good defensively. However, I got to say, man, LaMelo Ball, the key is to stop him. So that's a big game for Davion, for Jamal Shed. If they can shut down LaMelo Ball, I'm feeling great about it. But I got to wait to see Scottie's status.
All right, make sure you hit the QR code below. Check out all your basketball betting odds on Betway. And that's it, man.
Wow. Well, listen, big shouts to Jevohn. We'll definitely have him back. Big shouts to all of you guys for listening. Remember, we're going live after most games, almost every game, basically. I'm basically committing my whole life to this. Hit subscribe on YouTube, hit like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. This has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway.